Welcome to MacGyver's Workshop, where you never know what we're going to be working on next. If you're not too careful, you just might learn something.
Hi there, and welcome to MacGyver's Workshop. Today we're working on the Old Blue project. Unfortunately, our camshaft turned out to have some issues that we discovered when we degreed the camshaft. It's why it's vitally important that anytime you get a new camshaft, especially a performance cam, or heck, even a stock replacement cam, that you degree it before you get it all back together and then have to tear the whole thing back out again because it runs lazy or whatever because it's not timed right. And in all the 30 years I've been working on engines, never seen one that was far enough out to worry about, but this one was 16 degrees retarded, meaning that everything was opening late and closing late, and it would have made the engine just very lazy and unresponsive, poor fuel economy, all that. So we went ahead and pulled the cam out and sent it back, and we will get a replacement, and I'm going to bump up to the next level of the cam just a tiny bit, and it's still a total street torque cam, but it's got just a little bit more valve lift and a little more duration, and I think we'll be plenty fine with that from a drivability standpoint. So, but in the meantime, what we need to do is, once we finally get this valve train all together, is we're going to need to put a lid on it. And unfortunately, your regular Power by Ford stock factory valve cover that we have here is not going to be tall enough to cover it. So what we're going to do, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. Some guys say, well, I'll just stack a couple gaskets in there, but that's no good because it's going to leak. And there was, I think, one of the forums at one point, there was a fella who worked in a fab shop and was able to cut a spacer out of aluminum with a water jet cutter, but he's not doing that anymore. And I checked into getting one done that way, but unfortunately that was going to be like $600 or $700 just to do a one-off piece. So what was suggested to me was that you basically take two valve covers and make one out of two and raise it up a little bit, which is what we're going to do. Not my ideal scenario because it's a lot of extra work, but there is a shiny side to it because my donor truck has the later model valve cover that accepts the newer style rubber gasket, and it has these little dimples here around each bolt that compress this rubber gasket and prevents you from over tightening it and squishing it out to where it eventually leaks. So this is a much better design. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this valve cover right about here, and they're both the same shape, obviously. And what we can do is we'll cut the bottom rail. We'll cut this right close flush at the bottom, and slide it over this, and that will give us our additional height. And then what we will do is we will braze it. That's kind of like soldering, if you will, but you do it with a torch and a brazing rod. What we'll do is we'll braze it up so that we have it's sealed and it won't leak and all that. And then we'll sandblast it and paint it. So we're going to go ahead and get cracking here. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one and cut the lid off of it, and then we'll cut the bottom out of that one. So we got our spacer here, and now we're going to go take and give it a bath and get any schmutz, residual schmutz out of it, and we'll get ready to start on this one. Now we got that all nice and pretty looking. A little time in the sandblaster cabinet there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sand off any flash from where we were cutting this valve cover. Now make it nice and easy for us to work with. Alright, now if you're using the later model valve cover to make your extension, it's a little bit easier, I think, because this is made out of a lot thicker metal than the old Power by Ford valve cover is. Now it will fit really nicely. However, you will need to do some metal work because the two ends are a little bit different. See if I can get this to where you can see it. The later style is flat here, okay, on the ends, whereas the old school one kind of has this bump here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it tacked into place, and then what we'll do is we will work this metal here and shape it to match this, okay? Now, of course, we still have to cut the flange off of this Power by Ford valve cover yet, but I just wanted to show you some of the things that we're going to get into with this. One other thing we'll need to do as well, you'll need the clearance right here and here and here and here, so that you've got room for this to slip down inside the Power by Ford valve cover nice and pretty. Now once you've trial fit this and you know she sets down in there nice and everything lines up like it should, all right, that's when you have to make that final decision that you're going to cut up, you know, a genuine OEM Power by Ford valve cover. So we've got everything set the way we need it. We know we're going to have enough rise with this, and we've done our clearancing here, 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 and here. And now what we need to do is we need to cut this flange off of this valve cover I guess we could use a cut and mill, but I'm thinking a sheet metal saw would probably be better, but whatever your preference. I think it'd be easier getting down in these little curvy sections here. So that's what I'm going to use. Now for cleaning up the little corners or curvy areas in here, a little carbide burr is the tool for that job. It'll get you down in there. Just make sure you're wearing your safety glasses. It's gonna be noisy. So after much brazing and sandblasting and all that, I've got my tall valve cover. Now we're still gonna do a little more to make it pretty, but I got to get a shot of etch primer on here so this thing doesn't rust. But the trick to this is, I found, as you're going around brazing, you know, you need to use like a welding clamp to hold it tight together so that, you know, your metal on the outside here is as flat against the other piece as possible, because, you know, this power by forward valve cover is so thin. As soon as you put any kind of heat to it, it just starts moving on you. So, you know, and it takes forever because you can only braze like an inch or an inch and a half at a time, or however wide your clamp is to hold down. And then when you get into these little valleys right here where the rocker cover bolts go, the trick for that is to take and lay a socket down in there and then do your weld clamp like that, and that holds that metal down in there where it belongs, keeps it from moving around on you. So, yeah, even MacGyver learns something new every day here. And then, God bless my sandblaster. Ain't no other way you can get something this clean, despite the fact that it just annoys the bejesus out of you and it's a royal pain in the butt to live with. A cheap Harbor Freight sandblaster. But after about 954 modifications, it kind of works. So, but anyway, so I'm gonna get some primer on this, and then we can start prettying up our stuff here, and then get it back to looking like it did before we started.